Set blasters on full.
What's up guys, Gripe here, going to do a review of the Darth Vader figure from S.H.Figuarts. So we'll start with the packaging. It's pretty much the same packaging they had in the Stormtrooper figure, and I'm assuming the whole Star Wars line. Nice big window here so you can view Vader and all of his accessories. You have a picture of Vader here on the side. Some more pictures of Vader here in the back showing off his stump and saber. And on this side we have the Star Wars logo, some silver graphics just like the Stormtrooper box. And we've got some Japanese writing covered by stickers on the bottom here, and the Star Wars logo on top. Taking a look through the window, we can see the accessories here. We've got the two different lightsabers over here on the left, and on the right we have two additional sets of hands and the stump. As you can see, it definitely comes with a nice amount of accessories. So let's crack open this box and check the figure out. So we'll start out with the sculpt and paint on the figure. While it is primarily a black figure, the paint that is on here is very crisp and well done. You can see that here in the silver tips on the face mask, and I really like the paint they used on the face mask. It's almost like a silver flecked black, so it stands out from the rest of the head. We'll zoom in a bit so you can get a better look at the head here. And they use a great glossy black paint. You can see it here on the helmet and on the eyes as well. You can also see all these great sculpted details on the face mask. I like how the mesh here under the chin is sculpted in. Another sculpted detail they did I really like is these things along the neck here. You can see it's also got some really clean and precise silver paint accents on them. And that goes all the way around the neck here, under the helmet. And it's just a really nice detail. You don't even notice at first, and when you do, it's very nice to see. It's a great indication of the level of detail that Figuarts put into this sculpt. And taking a look at the chest armor here, you can see all these ridges are sculpted in, as well as those two depressions in the front. And the paint on this is super clean. All the silver and black lines are very precise. There's no bleeding on any of the edges, and it looks really good. And you can see the chain on the cape here is also painted a dark gray color, which matches up with the movies pretty well. We'll take a look at the chest box, and this is one of my favorite parts of the figure. Everything is sculpted really well, great detail on the paint, and great vivid colors. You can also see on the belt here, all those details are sculpted in the buckle, and same with these side boxes, and everything's really cleanly painted. And I like how all the stuff that would be cloth is painted with a matte black instead of the glossy black used for the armor. It looks really nice. You can really see all the details in the sculpt here with all these folds and ripples in the cloth. Looks really good. You can see it here on the abdomen as well. There's a nice big fold here on the stomach. And you can see that level of attention to detail goes all the way around the figure here. You have all these nice unique creases and folds in the back, and everyone is a little bit different. And if you take a look at the back of the chest armor up here, you can see all the same detail that they had in the front. All the ridges are sculpted and everything's painted really nice. There's really not much left as far as paint goes on this figure, as the rest of it is really just black. But we can take a look at the sculpt real quick on these legs, and you can see again all this great attention to detail with these creases here around the crotch, and all these ridges in the pants here as well are sculpted. And you can see on the boots here also a great level of detail. Every little line and ridge here is a sculpt. These little depressions on the side here. And taking a look at the feet, again this isn't one of the more detailed areas of the figure, but what is here is done really well. Everything looks really smooth and glossy. You got this little heel here. Not any texture or anything on the bottom, but came out pretty good. And now let's take a quick look at the cape and skirt, and these are all sculpted and in a soft flexible plastic, and you can see the skirt here is actually in three pieces, two side pieces and the back piece here. And I really like the sculpt they use with all these ripples in the fabric. It can be a little tough when you're trying to pose them, especially in crouching poses, but you can kind of work around it a bit. So now we'll check out the articulation. So we'll start out with head articulation. You can get the head down about that far, you can get them up about that far. It does have some side to side. That's about it, and does rotate, and that's about the extent of the rotation. Now you can force it a little bit, get a little bit more, but that's about it. And it is on a double ball joint, so you can see you can kind of crane the neck a little bit, but not much. And that's about it. Now we'll check out the shoulder pads, which are articulated, and those are on a hinge and ball joint. You can see they hinge out like that, and then you can swivel them all the way around. And this really helps with posing, allows you to get the arms in some positions you wouldn't otherwise be able to get them in. But you can see they look a little weird if you flip them around. They kind of stick out too much. So it's best to just leave them in the normal position and then just kind of move them around as you need it. And you can see here they give you a little bit of extra range of motion. The shoulder joint is really nice. You get a lot of movement with the arm in the shoulder. You can see you can rotate it all the way around, move it up and down. Really helps with the posability of the figure. And the shoulders do rotate 360 degrees like this. Just keep in mind that the shoulder pad is attached to the shoulder itself, so when you're rotating it or moving the shoulders, those pads come with them and you have to reposition them. There is also a bicep swivel, gets all the way around. And this figure has a nice double jointed elbow. You can see you can really get a nice bend on it, and it does extend completely straight. There is no forearm swivel on here, but the wrist is a ball and hinge. It's a little tricky sometimes to get the hinge to go where you want, but you can move it around independent of the hand, so you can get a little side to side or up and down movement on it depending on where you position that hinge. You can see it goes down about that far and up about that high. Now take a look at the ab crunch. It's got a decent ab crunch, but not great. You can see it moves back about that far and up about that far. And it was a little loose on my figure. I don't know if that's all of them, but so it's a bit tough to keep it in a pose. It does have some side-to-side movement on the ab crunch as well, as you can see here, but it doesn't have any twist to it. You can see once I isolate that joint, you really don't get any movement out of it. It's my thumb moving and not the joint. It does twist at the waist though. It takes a little bit, but you can get it all the way around if you need to. But there's really not any other movement on the waist. Now let's take a look at the hips. And this figure has much better hips than the Stormtrooper did. The legs do extend away from the joint, which is nice, so you can really get some good range of motion. As you can see, I can almost get them into a full split here. That was one of my biggest gripes with the Stormtrooper, was the limited range of motion in the hips. And you can really see the amount of movement you can get in the joint here. You can see this one leg is all the way down, the other one's all the way up, and you can switch them here. And it really just frees up the legs and lets you get them into some nice dynamic poses. And you can see it does have a thigh swivel here, which I didn't even notice at first until I pulled the leg out, because it's definitely cut up really high in the thigh. It's more at the joint almost than the actual thigh, but you can get it pretty much all the way around. And the legs do extend forward about that far, but that's with the leg pushed all the way up into the hip joint. Once I extend it away from the hip, you can get a little bit more range of motion, as I'm about to do here. You can see I can get a few more degrees on the kick out, which is nice. But even with the leg all the way out from the joint, you can see they only go back about that far. That's really just because it hits the back of the butt there and the sculpt. And this figure does have double jointed knees, which is nice. You can see you get a good bend already, and that's just the bottom joint. And once I push a little bit farther, you can see that top joint move there. I think that's about as far as you can get. Let me just... Yeah, that's about the extent you're going to get on those. They do extend completely straight. And unfortunately, there is no knee or calf swivel on here, as you can see. It's a little disappointing, but it's not terrible. And on the ankles, the feet go up about that high and down about that far. You're hitting the armor there. And there is a little bit of a swivel, but the armor is blocking it again. You can see that's about the extent you're swiveling, which isn't terrible. Again, I mean, you really don't need to get too much farther before it starts to look weird. You do have a bit of a pivot, not too much to the outside though. And there is toe articulation. It goes up a pretty decent amount, much better than the Stormtrooper, and it comes down just a flat. So now we'll take a look at the accessories. So like I said earlier in the video, this figure comes with 3 sets of hands. These are the hands that come installed. It's 2 fists, left and a right. And you also have the gripping hands, a left and a right, and these are what you use to hold the lightsaber. You also have a set of open hands. These are like the force push hands. And you have a stump. And you can see the stump is sculpted and painted here. It's got a little silver where the missing hand should be. Definitely a cool accessory to have. You could do some cool poses with that. And here we have the 2 lightsabers. First one is just the regular lightsaber with no blade. You can see all these really nice sculpted details on here. Everything's painted really crisp and clean with the silver and black. It looks really nice. And here's the other lightsaber. Handle is exactly the same. It just has a blade in addition. And fortunately the blade was nice and straight. Here you can see an additional painted detail, the little black circle on the bottom of the lightsabers. And again, just really nicely painted and sculpted, really great accessories. And now we'll take a look at the height and scale of the figure. And as you can see here, he's just a hair over 6 1/4 inches tall. And here he is compared to Stormtroopers. You have the Figuarts on the left and the Black Series on the right. And you can see he is taller than both of them, but I wish he was even taller than that. Maybe closer to 6 1/2 inches, I think would have fit the scale a little bit better. Overall, I think this is one of the best Vader figures out there right now. It's got a very detailed and well-proportioned sculpt, very clean paint app, pretty good articulation, and some really great accessories. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed it.
Set blaster zone full.